So I needed a wood chipper because I'll be cutting down some trees. I found this Craftsman 5 horsepower chipper on Craigslist for $200. The ad said working condition, but when I picked it up the seller said it ran when he last used it years ago, but now it won't start. I bought it anyway because there was nothing else on Craigslist, not a lot of wood chippers for sale around here. The fuel tank was half full and it smelled okay. I'm an expert at sniffing gas. The oil was full and actually looked very clean. When I tried to start it, it sounded like a bunch of debris was inside the drum, so I cleaned a bunch of junk out of the shredder hopper. Then I removed the grill for the outlet to remove more junk. A leaf blower came in handy to blow out the small bits. Tried to start it again, pulled it several times, but no luck. I'm also an expert at smelling exhaust. I didn't smell any fuel coming out of the exhaust, so I knew we had a fuel problem. I removed the spark plug, which appeared to be the original. It showed no wear at all, but I cleaned it anyway, then I put it back in. I hooked up a spark tester, but couldn't connect it between the ignition wire and the spark plug because the plug sits in a deep hole. So I just stuck a piece of metal in the tester and tested it to ground. The light's flashing, so I know we have spark. Then I remembered an easier way to check for spark and compression is to spray carb cleaner or brake cleaner into the intake. It sounded like it wanted to run, so I knew spark and compression were okay. I just needed to fix the fuel problem. Just like any carbureted engine that won't start after sitting a long time, you have to clean out the carb because fuel dries up and clogs stuff. Since the carb had some fuel inside, I knew the float needle was probably okay. Float needle keeps the bowl filled with fuel. That fuel gets sucked up through the jets and into the engine. I always clean the outside before I take it apart, so I'm not putting more dirt inside as I'm taking it apart. At the bottom of the bowl I can feel a little slime, but not too bad. The pin that holds the float comes right out. I look inside the hole for the float needle and I see some white junk in there. Never seen that stuff before. By the way, you should remove any rubber gaskets because carb cleaner sometimes causes them to deform. I stripped some electrical wire to clean out holes in the carb because harder materials would damage things like scratching seats or enlarging holes. I use lacquer thinner to clean a lot of things because it's cheap and it's good for cleaning parts. If you put it in a spray bottle, make sure the sprayer can hold up to lacquer thinner. Now I twist some strands of wire together to clean the jets. Some jets are removable, these are not. Make sure the wire is able to poke all the way through the jets. Before you remove the air-fuel mixture screw, turn it clockwise to seat it all the way, lightly, or you'll damage it. Make sure you count the number of turns it takes to seat it because you'll want to set it back where it was before when you put the screw back in. This screw was one turn out. Now you can take the screw all the way out. Use wire to clean the hole. This time I use carb cleaner to make sure the passage is completely unclogged. Then I clean the screw and put it back in. I tighten it all the way down, lightly, and back it out one turn exactly where it was before I removed it. Before I put the float needle back in, I clean it. It slides into a slot on the float. Then I stick the pin back into the float. The bolt for the bowl is hollow and has some crud inside, so I'm going to clean it out too. Don't forget the gasket. I clean the bowl before I reinstall it. Put the nut back on and snug it up. I reinstall the throttle linkage. Some machines will have a linkage for the choke plate as well. This one doesn't, but it does have a little spring for the throttle linkage that's a pain in the butt. I bolt the carb back in place and tighten the bolts. I reinstall the fuel line and hose clamp, and before I reinstall the air filter housing, I'm going to test it out. So now I reinstall the air filter housing and reinstall the 3 bolts. Finally, the air filter and cover.